Good afternoon. I see some people coming into the room, into this virtual room, so welcome. If you want to say hello, there on the chat box, please say hello where you're from. So, for instance, this is, David from Port Elizabeth or John from Hermanus. There we go. Hi from Bedfordview, Kerry. Hi, welcome. Nice to have you in the room. Midrand, good afternoon, Precious from Midrand. Always like seeing bits of South Africa all coming together in one space. There's someone from Sandton, Benoni. We're the Cape Townians. Any Cape Townians around? Mandisa from Durbs. Hi, Mandisa. Bloem, Mpumalanga. Welcome, Cliff. There, the Praetorians are there here too. It's 16:01. We're going to wait another minute or so while people still enter into the room, and then we will start. In the meantime, it's nice to see where people are coming from. There's Sandton. Ah, there's Cape Town. Hi, Saraya. Oh, Saraya from Kimberley. Mooi. Welcome, Candice. A nice representation across South Africa. Lovely to see. Let's just wait another minute or so, and then we will start. Morning, Chloe. Afternoon, Chloe. Hermanus. Welcome, Hermanus. Botswana. Welcome. Nice to see. Right, as people are still trickling into the room, I think we can start with the introductions and the webinar this afternoon. So welcome everybody here to this afternoon of leveraging legal tech for the South African legal profession. It's a topic, being from LexisNexis, of course, that's really close to my heart in many spheres and in many facets. And we will discuss, can't possibly discuss all of them today, but we will touch on certain items with respect to legal tech in the legal world. I'm George Findlay. I'm from LexisNexis. I've been here quite a long time. I'm a qualified attorney, notary, and conveyancer, and have had exposure to legal tech in all shapes and sizes over many, many years. And today we're going to chat a little bit about that and legal tech, which defines the practice of law. And for some, it's quite an intimidating thought. Some people embrace it, other people are cautious about it, and some move full steam ahead with it. So there's a variety of approaches that people have to legal tech. And today we're going to have a look at some of it and how it enhances efficiency, how you improve client experience, and of course, how do you stay competitive in this really, really dynamic market. We have with us today a panel of experts. You can see their faces up on the screen there, who will share some of their insights and their own personal experiences with respect to legal technology. And then we will show you some of the things that, and talk a little bit about the things that LexisNexis does and how we can help you to leverage legal tech to your advantage. So who do we have here today? So I'm going to start off with Advocate Mnisi. So Advocate Mnisi first did his articles and then went to the bar where he did his pupillage. He completed his pupillage at the South African Bar Association and has an LLB from the Northwest University. So it's lovely to have someone here who's got not a foot in private practice, both feet in private practice, and who can guide us through some of the experiences that he has with respect to legal tech from the viewpoint of the advocacy. So welcome, Advocate Mnisi, or July, as I'm going to refer to you today. And then I'm going to move over to Prof. Donrick Taldar. I always worry about getting the pronunciation of your name right, Donrick, so I'm going to stick to Prof, if you don't mind. So Prof. Taldar comes from the University of KZN. He's a full professor there, and he's recently published his 100th article. Gosh, I struggle to get one email out of my inbox, and you've published
articles are easy. It's heads of argument that advocates must draft. That's the difficulty.
Yeah. And I mean, Prof has been cited over 100 times. He's the principal investigator of a research project on legal aspects on the use of data science and health innovation in Africa. And he also has a private practice. So he's got one leg in the academia and another leg in the private practice, where he has served as legal counsel in, I think it's 21 reported cases. He currently, now this is the interesting part for me, and I think the part that everyone's kind of curious about, and that is he heads up a task team at the University of KZN developing guidelines for the use of AI. Now, AI is this buzzword that we hear all the time, and I often wonder and I ask myself, do people really know what it is? And we'll chat about that a little bit later. So, Prof, lovely having you here today, and thank you so much for your time. And then we also have Danaya Mashedi here. So Danaya is an admitted attorney. She has a whole stack of experience in private practice, having practiced, but she has a BCom Law, LLB, and an LLM with specialization in medico-legal law, which she obtained from the University of the Free State. She's currently affiliated with the Northwest University. And thank you for joining us, Danaya, and being here to share some of your expertise and experience with respect to legal tech. And again, we've got like one leg in private practice, one leg in the academia, and I think it's a really good mix and balance that we have here today. And last, certainly not least, is my colleague Ashleka. So Ashleka is the product manager for Lexis Plus. So Lexis Plus is our flagship legal research tool. It's recently been launched. It's going on a full launch in South Africa on the beginning of September. Ashleka, lovely having you here today. And Ashleka will show us and guide us through some of the things that we're doing at LexisNexis in this legal tech journey. The legal tech journey with LexisNexis is very interesting, and it goes back literally in South Africa 100 years. If you go back to the initial publications with Butterworths that a lot of you may be familiar with, and the absolute technology in the last 30 years or so, where we've been really instrumental in a variety of things. So let's kick off. And I say instrumental with a variety of things. We talk about the tools of the trade. Every profession has its tools. You think of a dentist, he certainly has a tool set that he uses to do his work. And law is exactly the same. And I was thinking about the tools that we use and where do we use the tools, and what does the legal practice do or the practitioner do? And I think of three things, well, maybe four things. One is the generation of documents. And in order to generate those documents, you need to do your research. So there's another leg, is the generation of documents and the legal research which underpins those documents. And then thirdly are communication tools between practitioners. I'm thinking of the exchange of pleadings as an example. And of course, the communication between the practitioner and the client. So those are sort of three areas where I immediately think legal tech plays a role. So just to repeat, we've got generation of documents, legal research, and communication. And before I start, LexisNexis is very interesting in that space, is that very often the perception is there that it's only legal research. But we've done an incredible amount of work with respect to document automation, document generation, as well as communication. I'll touch on those a little bit today if we have a chance. But let me just think. So the other thing that I might have missed out, of course, is accounting software. But now every business has accounting software, but within law, we also have case management software, which plays a role as well. So those are the things that I have in my mind. Now, I want to ask the panel. I'm going to ask July, Advocate Nisi, I'm going to start with you. Any thoughts regarding those things that I mentioned? Are there spaces where you think there are some legal tools that you use in your world that I might not have covered? Is there something that I'm missing?
Thank you very much, George, and to my colleagues and also to the participants. I think you have outlined it properly well, but I just think maybe I should just add two aspects. One being the uploading of documents into court online, or the so-called case lines, because that's what we currently use. We no longer have to hold bundles and bundles of papers to go and file them in court. So now we just upload everything on case lines when you're in court. Then you just direct the court that go to bundle what, go to bundle what. So secondly, I also want to speak about the use of AI, or rather ChatGPT. That I also find it as a tool, but we use it as a tool, as a form of it having to guide us, not to rely on it entirely, because most of the time you find that the facts that it gives you, the fictitious, and the conclusions it gives you, the fictitious, and you cannot rely on such tools entirely on everything which is fictitious to go to court. So I think the use of AI is good, but as an aid, not as something which is conclusive. Thank you very much, George.
Yeah, that's very interesting. You know, I wasn't thinking about the case lines, and that, of course, is applicable not in all the jurisdictions or all the provinces. Prof, any thoughts on your side with respect to what Advocate Nisia said, and possibly through the eyes of the academia? Prof, you're on mute.
Sorry.
Go for it.
Yes, well, if your question is about legal tech generally, then of course case lines is such a wonderful example. You know, I'm here in KZN, but if I do work in the courts in Johannesburg or Pretoria, then I can request the court to hear me virtually through Zoom. How wonderful, you know. So it's easier for me in KZN to appear in Gauteng. While if I must appear in KZN, in Durban or Pietermaritzburg, then, you know, this is the kind of bundle that you need, and you go to court with all of these bundles. You know, Pietermaritzburg High Court is very charming, but you still need a big case. In academia, I think that it differs very much from academic to academic, to what extent people want to embrace a technology. Then regarding AI specifically, that's quite interesting. So I'll just make a few introductory remarks.
Yes.
I think universities worldwide have adopted policies regarding the use of AI. I think when ChatGPT just came out a year or so ago, was it a bit longer? I'm not sure. Many universities quickly responded, but I think it was a bit of a knee-jerk reaction to say, well, be careful, very cautious, and put in some structures, and that and the similarity tool, Turnitin, released its software to check for AI, and I think many academics started using that in their students' essays. Are the students cheating by using AI? But I think our thinking about it has changed quite rapidly to a far more embracing approach, realizing the positive power that AI definitely has, and and rather thinking of how to use it to improve performance, not only of ourselves as academics and our research output, but of course also our students. We need to prepare our students for practice. And ChatGPT is a tool that's out there. You need to know how to use it in an ethically and a responsible way. But because, as July said, you can't, you know, it can sometimes hallucinate and make up stuff. So you can't end up in court. We've all heard those horror stories. You can't go in front of a judge and, fictitious case. I think that is absolutely disastrous. So we need to teach our students how to use it, but how to use it responsibly. So that's my short answer. I'm sure I'll have opportunity to expand on that a bit later.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think we'll get to some of those topics a bit later. What always intrigues me in any industry is how quickly one adopts a certain lingo. If I think 18 months ago, none of us in this entire room, not just us, all the attendees as well, would have known what the words ChatGPT were, would have known what the words AI were, let alone speaking about hallucinations with respect to AI.
Yes.
I mean, it's remarkable how these
but
things...
it's wonderful, the way in which it can really be used to ensure, to save time, to ensure a more productive approach. You know, it's absolutely amazing. One of my, if I can quickly add a story, my project manager of my grant here at the university was copied in an email with one of our service providers who does plain language for some of the documents that we produce in health law. And the email correspondence with the service provider in Stellenbosch was in Afrikaans. So my project administrator, being Zulu, not knowing a word of Afrikaans, but recognizing it's Afrikaans, started corresponding with the service provider in Afrikaans. I was just copied in. And I know that my project manager, Simangalisu, cannot speak a word of Afrikaans. But he decided he's going to impress our service provider using ChatGPT, translate everything in the most wonderful Afrikaans. And that's how he now communicates with the service provider. So all of these interesting things. I don't know, George, did you know that ChatGPT can speak Afrikaans?
Well, I know that with other social media platforms, and you have a little thing in brackets that says rate this translation. So I don't know how good it is, but I have heard.
I know this is now not necessarily legal tech, no.
Sure,
but
sure.
It's still about all the ways that it can be used that just put a smile on one's face.
Yeah. Thanks, Prof. Danaya, any thoughts from your side with respect to what we've been chatting about thus far?
Thank you, George. As I'm listening to you guys speak, I actually, just reminisced a bit about when I was still in practice. And I remember in 2021, I was working for a remote law firm. And the law firm was based in KZN, and I was still in Bloemfontein. So, I got exposed to using this legal tech software that they were using, which is an international software, and it was cloud-based.
Yes.
So this software was so amazing. Needless to say that it had tools and features that I've never seen before in any law firm that I was before. So this software, it enables you to access every document everywhere. It had this document management system where you could access the document everywhere you were. Bills and payments that could send reminders to client. If you were to set a date that this invoice must be paid on the 31st, and if it's not paid, it could send the reminder to the client. Calendaring, it reminded you of your deadlines and your to-do tasks as well. And the one thing that I loved about the software, George, is that it also had a mobile app that you could download on your phone. So if you are in court, waiting for your matter to be called, you are busy there updating, your client information, you're entering your billables on the software. So that software really, for me, I was very impressed to come across that software when I was doing this remote work with this law firm.
Yeah, very interesting. I mean, if I think in my introduction when I said primarily three things, research, document generation, and communication, but listening to July and to you and to Prof as well, there's actually an incredible amount of additional stuff. You've just now mentioned case management, diary management, short messaging systems, all of that. All of those are bits of technology that enhance legal practice. It brings me to listening to you now as well, Danaya, about the adoption of this new tech and how you had to adopt this really quickly in your practice. There's this perception of reluctance to change or the reluctance to adopt. And I think lawyers or legal practitioners as a whole have a reputation of being super reluctant to change and super slow in adoption. And I think about that often, and I think that perception is wrong. And I think, for instance, the work that lawyers do or legal practitioners do over the last centuries has in essence remained the same. I mean, the work that we do is always the same. It's just the tools that have improved and changed, pardon me, and the adoption of those tools. I was thinking sort of kind of lightheartedly, but Cicero during the Roman times had a scroll from which he read. And then Gutenberg provided us with a printing press. And so things developed really, really fast. And if I think in my own adult lifetime, I have seen the development of the photocopier, the fax, the laser printer, and of course, email, and now we sit with AI. And that's just in my lifetime, only in my adult lifetime in the last 30 odd years, 40 odd years or so. So I wanted to speak about this reluctance of change and this perception. So Danae, I'm going to stay with you. Do you think that perception is correct, that reluctance to change or that reluctance to adapt to legal tech?
Well, George, I'm going to speak from an academic point of view, and you know, I beg to differ that there is a reluctance to change. Yeah. From what I've seen in the academic space since I've moved away from private practice, universities are actually embracing the use of technology at a very fast pace.
Yes.
Since COVID, there've been numerous changes, within the academic space in as far as the use of technology is concerned. We look at how they've modified the infrastructure to incorporate the use of technologies in classrooms. We've moved from the old ways of doing things. We've moved from collecting forms in person to filling the forms online and submitting them online. We've moved away from some institutions, however, are still remaining online, whilst others have moved to a different teaching modality, by still having contact classes and online, that hybrid teaching modality is still there. So I think we may not be where we want to be right now as compared to universities internationally, but I think we are getting there, and technology is here to stay. So I wouldn't say we are reluctant to change. I think change just takes time.
Yes, yes. No, I agree with you, and I mean the technology runs at a crazy pace, and I think the legal profession kind of does lag behind, but that's normal. I want
100%.
to ask, yeah, Prof, I want to come to you on this portion as well, and just to tell us a little bit about how the university embraces the technology from a teaching point of view. I mean, are there modules that students can take that deals with legal tech?
A good question. Well, in the School of Law, unfortunately not yet, but hopefully that will change soon. I think, we have different personalities. Some personalities are more risk averse. Some of us want to be the first adapters of new technology. So we're different people within the law profession and within academia. But I do think that if there are clear guidelines in an institution, that makes it a lot easier for people to make use of that new technology, especially with AI and the potential, how shall I say, stigma that can go along with using ChatGPT to do writing or whatever the case. There is a stigma issue that we must admit and that we must address. So the moment that there are clear guidelines or policy within an institution, then it will make it a lot easier for people to say, well, now I can admit that I do it, or now I can actually use this generative AI, that generative AI, because the policy allows for me, and the policy gives me guidance on how to do this in a way that my institution has decided is a good and ethical way to do it. So that is the reason why my institution has now decided we want to have a policy, and as soon as possible.
Yeah.
And in that, so that's about that's to answer your question about adapting to new technology. And just yesterday, I think our government released its brand new policy framework for AI. So that's a very new document that has now seen the light of day. I'm very happy that our government is also taking the initiative with this. It's not a very long policy framework, but I think very progressive It
Yes.
notes the ethical issues and potential bias issues, but it's also very progressive in the sense that South Africa should be at the forefront of making use of this technology. And for tertiary education, that policy framework specifically says that AI must be integrated in all levels, from basic education to tertiary education. So that's a call on all educators.
Yes.
To ensure that we integrate AI in our learning programs. Of course, it's like the calculator. When sometimes you need to have certain skills as well, and internalize those skills. So, when my son was in primary school and we practiced these multiplication tables, he always told me, why must I memorize these things? He told me I can just use a calculator. But I told him, if you get in the exam, in matric, and you see, 81, you immediately need to click, it's 9 squared. If you see 144, you immediately need to click, it's 12 squared. So there are also certain skills that you need to internalize before you can use certain technology. And I think there the onus is on the educators to think how to manage it. How to manage it best. But eventually you need to know to use that calculator and an Excel spreadsheet and so on when the time is right. So,
I think you raise a really interesting point. That thing about the skill sets, and those skill sets for technology not being taught at universities, and then someone goes to the bar. So July, I'm going to ask this question to you, really. So when you arrive at the bar and you've got to start practicing as an advocate, and you actually, I'm not saying all advocates, but don't have the skill set to adopt the technology because it was never actually taught. Do you find that that is a kind of a real statement that I'm making now? And hence the reluctance to adoption is because people don't have the skill sets. July, just remember to unmute there.
No, thank you very much, George. No, I can tell you now at the bar that there is a reluctance to change, but it's not everyone. It's mostly the elderly people who are in the profession. I'm talking about 40 plus, but the young ones who are recently admitted who are proper, because we get to have an appreciation that we still have energy, we still need to learn. So the reluctance to change in the legal profession is a complex issue itself, and which is influenced by various factors. One, I can say, is the tradition and the culture of the profession, because the legal profession has a deep rooted traditions and culture that are the values are established practices. You get a 60-year-old lawyer, or you can't be telling that person to go and research through LexisNexis. They'll tell you that they rather prefer to buy the commentaries and have the book physically there. Secondly, another issue is the educational background. We have not been to the same universities, all of us. So in some environments, they emphasize a lot of doctrine and precedence over innovation. So people are used to always using precedence. They don't want to innovate anything. They just want to rely on something which is already there and just use it as regurgitated information. Another reluctance which I've seen is that for myself, like now, I've just started practice as an advocate. I can tell you that I don't afford to pay for LexisNexis. I'm still using the one from the university because it's quite expensive. So there's also issues of financial considerations. The last one that I'll raise, I don't want to take up a lot of time, is the issue of technology adaptation. It's difficult for most of our old people or those ones who are 40 plus, because once they get into court proceedings that are interrupted, because you find some of these law firms that are suffering from simple things of basic data problem, that you don't have data, you're still using a modem, you don't have proper Wi-Fi. Some of them are scared of these cyber crimes. So those are some of the things that I think are the ones which are making most of these people or our colleagues to be reluctant. So to mitigate the reluctance to change, legal professionals may need to embrace a culture of continuous learning and innovation, and also to actively engage in discussions about benefits of change, like some of these webinars. Thanks a lot, George.
Yeah. Thanks, July. Very, very interesting. And your comments about the 40 plus people, I must say, it's very close to my heart, So July, but really on the back of what you were saying now, the use of technology and tools in order to stay competitive in this digital world is absolutely crucial. And I know here, I mentioned earlier at LexisNexis, we've been instrumental in research platforms, document generation platforms. I mean, from a conveyancing point of view, to give you an example, you know, we generate probably 80% of conveyancing documents are generated on the LexisNexis platforms. It's automated, it is accurate, it is efficient, and we have found that practitioners actually cannot do conveyancing without that kind of platform. I would love one day to have a webinar speaking just about conveyancing, or speaking just about a platform we call Lexis Windy that you might be familiar with, where you can do the deed search and the company searches. The access to that data is just remarkable. And having access to this information brings me to my colleague Ashleka. So Ashleka's worked super closely as the product manager for Lexis Plus. And I don't want to speak too much. I want to hand over to Ashleka, actually, who's going to show us really the power of technology for legal research. Ashleka, can I hand over to you, and you can take us through some of the latest and greatest in the Lexis Plus platform.
Thank you, George. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
And we can see your screen.
Lexis Plus.
Yes.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. So today I will be demoing Lexis Plus South Africa, which is our advanced legal research platform. And like we've been hearing from our colleagues on the panel, you know, the world is moving so fast, and likewise here at LexisNexis, always moving into their technology stream. So with our advancement of technology out there, we have broadened our research platform for our users, and having to help our users have something more efficient for their research and at their fingertips, right? So what you're seeing on my screen is our new platform. This houses our legal research content on the platform, ranging from your case law to your legislation, analytical materials, which you can see on my screen. And with legal research comes so many questions when one wants to use it. So I will be doing a search. So if I came in today and I was interested to look up elements of delict, because this is legal tech that we're talking about. So if I looked over elements of delict, but as a user, I have the option to also look at the many content types that come through. But I'm really interested in looking at cases. So I'm going to go through a search for cases. And you can see our platform will give our users quite a few interesting visuals to our search. And one of the powers of Lexis Plus is leveraging the AI and algorithms. So I merely just asked the system elements of delict, and already it's prompting me in its smartness to give me an answer to what I've been asking. And this is already telling me, oh, I've got case law to guide me in the aspect that I'm looking for. This interests me already, because in terms of the research that I want to do, I would want to apply it in what I'm looking for. And as you get through your answers, you can now see Lexis Plus is boasting even more colorful features that are attracting you, not just from a research perspective, but also to understand what I'm seeing on my screen. So we have so much visualization coming through in our search. And just because we're looking purely at case law, you can see I've got a variation of cases coming through. So I'm very interested to refining my search. What if I wanted to go a step further? Elements of delict, it interests me, but I want to understand this more in the context of civil proceedings and how I can use this best in my case. Can it give me the information that I'm looking for at a refined level in terms of search? Let's see what the system does now. And now you can see I've got more options coming up in terms of the case law, and it's now giving me more of a concentrated search in terms of colors. You can see I've got more colors coming through. It's also indicating to me that this is the case that is quite colorful in the terms that I have searched. But what does this actually mean if I did not want to read further? I'd want to click in on the search bar to get in, or would I want to click into the case to get in? If I had to click into the case itself, and I'm going to click on my third result, you will see that Lexis Plus is now giving our users a case indicative of the search words that I used, elements of dialect. And with this visual representation, you can see on my left-hand side, it's now allowing me, because it's leveraging that advanced technology, it's actually guiding me visually rather than scrolling throughout a screen and looking for the information. Now I can get into the information, click on a specific spot where my words, where my search terms are coming up. I'm very interested to see what these little red bars are. It's definitely directing me to the judgment piece, and it's also indicating to me this is where the concentration of dialect is coming through. Allows me to skip in my document, find the information I'm looking for, code the case I'm looking for, link to the case I'm looking for. On my right-hand side of my screen as well, it's also leveraging other reference cases to the case that you are seeing in my screen here. Also, with the benefits of Lexis Plus, if I come out and I get into my search results, if I was looking for particular topic, as you saw, I was looking for a dialect dealing with a specific subject, but I would want to understand this more, refine my search more. What is available to me in my refinement of my search? I have a whole lot of post filters that are coming up on my left-hand side, and we can see it's giving me a lot of more options to refine. But I'm very interested to look at what's available in terms of my search terms for my practice area. So now I've got the benefit of seeing how much more I can refine it. I was really interested in seeing how the elements of dialect fall in the civil procedure aspect. I can now find further cases that specifically deal with the civil procedure. It's also generating an answer to what I've asked the system, and that's focusing on the Lexis answers feature that you are seeing on my screen. With Lexis Plus, we can also follow a very interesting trail of how we do research. Sometimes we get a whole lot of history backed onto our system and we can't find where we got into the day before. With Lexis Plus, besides having a trail of searches and documents, the system also boasts a visual representation again as to where were we the day before if I wanted to pick up research today. So if I came into my platform tomorrow and I looked up into my research map, this would indicate to me visually what I was doing on the system. You can see I've logged into the system, I went into the search terms, it's told me that I've been searching specifically for these words, I've went into a search for cases, and this can apply across the content types that you see in the platform. When we also sit with searches on the platform, the power of Lexis Plus allows us to create folders to our benefits, keeping our test documents in respective folders, allowing us to share these folders with colleagues in our departments, and that just makes research a little bit smoother and at your fingertips. With Lexis Plus South Africa, we've also got a practical guidance, which is now available throughout our 30 practice areas. So if I was interested to get more hands-on practical guidance between my guidance, my research tools in any aspect, we are now cleanly housed our practice areas on the landing page that gives you a full array of these practice areas. Again, here, if I needed to refine or do a specific search, Lexis Plus is allowing me to put in specific words, and I can also refine in terms of a practice area. If I was interested in civil procedure itself, in terms of actions, this will take me into the next set of resources that come through purely in the practical guidance space for civil procedure, and this will come into the view of our topics and subtopics. And quite interesting for our legal professionals, tying up what you're looking for in terms of your research, as well as what our topics and subtopics are offered for in terms of our practice areas. Again, you can see on my screen, this has refined my search. It's giving me the returns that I'm looking for specifically. So with the advancement of legal technology, which has been backed on the system of Lexis Plus, it is now allowing our users to have a lot of information at their fingertips between our Lexis legal research content, as well as our practical guidance solutions. So George, that is my demo. I'm going to hand it back to you.
Thanks, Ashleka. That was a whirlwind, but fascinating. My other colleague Nadira is going to put up a little poll quickly for just to ask whether you would like us to contact you for a Lexis Plus, like an in-person demo or for practical guidance. So I want to ask, the poll should be up on your screens. Please, will you just complete it? Just 2 quick questions, and then we can get hold of you should you so wish. I'll just give you a second or two just so that you can read. All right, that was a quick yes and no, so thank you very much. I'm going to move on, but there are 2 things that I'm thinking of. I'm thinking about what July mentioned just now about the plus 40-year-olds, and then also seeing what Ashleka showed us now. What Ashleka showed us now was that if you are a young practitioner using this modern technology, you are suddenly brought up to the level of someone with 30, 40 years worth of experience because you have access to the information. I always used to believe or think, and that is that an attorney cannot possibly know an attorney or a practitioner cannot possibly know everything, but they must know where to find it and where to find it fast. And that's what Ashleka's just showed us now, is where to find things fast. And would you agree, I'm going to ask you, Daneo, again, I mean, you were speaking about adopting that software when you were in practice, that the young practitioner most definitely needs to adopt the modern software and the modern platforms in order to remain competitive. Would you agree with me, Daneo?
100%, George. I think, the use of technology, not only does it save your time, but it makes your work so easy. You become efficient and productive. Just to go back to that software I was talking about, let's say, for example, the calendaring feature. We know that, attorneys are always chasing deadlines. And if you were to use that tool, most probably you won't find yourself sitting with a notice of bar on your table because, you were able to meet your deadlines in time. So I think, some of these features, they really, really do give you a competitive advantage.
Yeah, no, for sure. July, from your side, from the bar, the adopting of technology. I know you mentioned some of the cost hurdles that are there for the young and the junior practitioners, but most certainly it elevates a junior practitioner to a much higher level once they start using this high-tech kind of software. Would you agree, July?
Thanks a lot, George. I agree with you 100%. It's always good to, as a practitioner, to remain relevant with changing time. So we must change with time because at some point we're going to become virtual beings. Another again, one of the advantages of adopting a legal technology, because it provides us with numerous competitive advantages, even for law firms and for departments. And also, again, it's fast. It's a fast mode of operating, delivering and communication information, be it nationally and globally. And it ensures that we grow and evolve with other global trends and being on par with them. So again, I'm not going to repeat on the issue of increased efficiency. I just want to add the issue of accessibility and remote work. That if now, like today, I was in Durban this morning for a matter at the match court. Had it been that they have adopted this legal tech, I was not supposed to have paid for flight tickets and having to go there and come back. I would have done everything online, submitted everything online. So you end up incurring high expenses in terms of having to book for flights and all those things. But had it been that the legal tech was adopted, it would have made things much more simple. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, July. I want to just steer again now to something which I think is foremost in a lot of people's minds. And Prof, I'm heading in your direction here with respect to AI. And can you give us just some insight regarding the policy frameworks that you're working on and have worked on, and how you see AI through your eyes playing a role in the legal field as well, primarily with the young practitioners adopting this, and the influence that AI already has and will have on the legal profession. If you can enlighten us a bit there, Prof.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, George. So in our School of Law at UKZN, I think we're the first law school or law faculty in the country to have adopted our own guideline for the use of AI in research. We have encouraged our colleagues to use AI in their academic research. Of course, there are some guidelines on how to do it. It's very important that the author must take responsibility. So it's like using a research assistant, or if you're an attorney, it's like using your article clerk. In fact, it's better than an article clerk, let's admit it. But it's in the same category. You need to double check and verify that what the AI produced is accurate. So often you need lots of summaries of lots of articles, of lots of cases. And in South Africa, a program like ChatGPT is not yet very good at finding those cases. But if you provide it with the cases, then it can do the summaries and the integration for you very good, definitely better than many of my master students. So that can most certainly assist with productivity. But yeah, so we as a School of Law decided we will adopt a guideline to give guidance to our colleagues for how to use it in our research. We're still working on guidelines for teaching. That is a big debate. But I can tell you that our lecturers most certainly use it themselves. For example, when we set a paper, you know, usually it takes almost a day to set an exam paper. But if you give certain content to ChatGPT and say, for example, formulate multiple choice questions. And specifically in my field of health law and bioethics is very international. So if you ask it to say, formulate a scenario-based multiple choice question, because all is about application, you know, it's not about just memorizing stuff. It's about testing whether students understand the application of the law. But where ChatGPT definitely has a strength in something like bioethics because it's very international, so it can easily think of scenarios. And we work in health law, so for us, we say, for example, you're a medical law practitioner. You often need to consult with medical experts, understand what they're doing so that you can make a decision and advise your client whether to proceed with a claim, whatever the case may be. They're the same with us. If I work in health law research, I work with geneticists and so on. And I need to understand exactly what they're doing. But ChatGPT has got such a wonderful inherent knowledge of that whole genomics research process that it saves me a massive amount of time by just quickly asking ChatGPT it. Of course, eventually it will be verified by humans, but just quickly checking this and quickly checking that, it definitely adds immensely to your efficiency.
Yeah. Prof, I'm going to stick with you for a second, just to based on what you've said now. It will be verified by humans, you say.
Yes.
And that, of course, is the inherent risk, is that the absolute reliance on the information that's being fed and that it's not properly verified by the humans. So would you agree that there is an ethical risk there?
Yes, absolutely. But it is not something that we can't manage with good common sense. So, and it's not really a qualitative new thing, because we will always, if you're an attorney and you ask your article clerk to do something, or to do a first draft, or find, that you cannot 100% rely on that. That you need to get a partner or somebody to verify that, to double check. So I don't think that this is so new to us. And the same with me, with research. Because I've got a big grant, I have 6 research assistants who can assist, and they can produce documents, But still, it's important that a senior academic must go through the work and make sure that it's all correct. But I can tell you, I've now recently experimented with the following. I wanted to see how good is ChatGPT at drafting a quite sophisticated contract, a data transfer agreement in the field of health research. So for those of you who work with PUPIA and things like that, you would know what's a data transfer agreement, DTA in short. So that's very much the kind of things that we work with and that the scientists at our university work with. And my research group produced, because our institutions in South Africa often struggle, especially the less well-resourced institutions, struggle to have good DTAs. My research group, because we also have a few practitioners with years experience, we came up with a template DTA that is compliant with PUPIA, National Health Act, everything that's online available that people can use free of charge. So that was very much my frame of reference. And I thought, well, you know, my research group and I, we spent not just hours, we spent days and weeks on making sure this is now a very good DTA. And I wondered, well, if we just asked ChatGPT from the outset to do this for us, how good would it, what would the quality of the product be? And I wrote it up as an article. So I approached it in a very methodological fashion. So first, because I know ChatGPT, so I know its weaknesses and its strengths. So I didn't just ask it to write the DTA for health research or something like that. I gave it the background, but then I asked it, provide me with an outline with the headings. Because remember, ChatGPT can't really write such, you know, long content, at least not as yet. So provide me with an outline. And now remember, my research assistants already provided me with an almost 100-page report on, they looked for examples of DTAs from all over the world. They identified what are the typical clauses, the typical headlines. So I had that background knowledge. But I asked ChatGPT to do that with its inherent knowledge to give me headings. And I decided I will repeat that prompt in different sessions until I feel, or until I see that I've reached saturation point, that it's not really now suggesting new headings. So I reached saturation point at about 9 or 10 sessions. And then all those headings of clauses I took and I combined it. I compared it with the report, and I can tell you that after the 10 sessions with ChatGPT, those clauses were very comprehensive, nothing missing. After just one session, there were definitely things missing. But if you combine it out of 10 sessions, you've really got a very comprehensive set of headings. Then I took it heading by heading, starting with one. I first told ChatGPT, well, this is the outline that you're going to use to draft me a DTA. Now I want you to draft the content for section 1 or clause 1. It did it. Then clause 2. Then, you know, prompt by prompt. Altogether, it drafted a massive DTA, about 7,000 words, a massive document.
Yeah.
Well, let's say, one can call it various things. So I then studied it and evaluated it. Now, I must tell you, well, no hallucinations. Unfortunately, some duplication. And there are definitely things on which I would say one can most certainly improve.
Sure.
But I can also tell you, if you got that document from a law firm, it seemed to be a professionally drafted DTA. Not perfect, but I think most people would think this is a very professionally drafted DTA. Definition section, consistent mostly, etc., etc. So the technology is already very powerful. And I think if I'm going to repeat this experiment in a year or two's time, and definitely in 5 years, it will produce a magnificent document. So that raises the question, what is the future of the legal profession?
Yes.
And I would like my colleagues, the other panelists, July already said we're going to be virtual. But I would like my fellow panelists to also weigh in on this.
Absolutely. So there's that old line that says, it doesn't help you've got sense, but you don't have common sense. And and hopefully the legal profession demands that you must have a whole chunk of common sense as well. Daneo, would you like to add on a little bit about what the prof has said about the future of the legal profession? We all adopt the tech, but is that our own death sentence, as it were?
I don't think it is per se, a death sentence. Like Advocate July said earlier, that we are bound to adopt to change, and even the 40th and the 50th, legal practitioners, I think at some point they will also be in a position where they have to follow the young people and start adopting to legal tech changes.
Yeah. July, do you have some thoughts from your side?
No, thanks a lot, George. No, I just wanted to add one point that our job, mostly as legal practitioners, we have got the duty to maintain integrity and accuracy of the legal services, which is something which is very crucial because we're dealing with clients. And when we're dealing with clients, it mostly involves sensitive personal information, their financial, their business matters. Another thing, there's issues of trust and credibility. There's issues of compliance with legal standards. You don't want to find yourself relying on AI alone. Then you go and present misleading information to the court. Then they can now get reported that, hey, this lawyer is known for misleading the court at all material times. So there's a case, by the way, I think it was somewhere in Johannesburg. I just forgot the citation, whereby they relied on AI for everything, and the court was very harsh in dealing with them.
Yeah.
Thank you, Judge.
Thanks, July. Interesting. So you're saying now there was a court case in Johannesburg, and you can't remember the citation. The thing is, with Lexis Plus, Ashleka would be able to get that to you in an instant. She'd be able to do that. Ashleka, we're heading towards close. We're out of time, actually. But one of the things that I think of often, and really it's to what you're saying, July, about using ChatGPT or using AI to feed you information. The question I always ask is, where is that information coming from? Is it reliable? Is it accurate? And that's what we at LexisNexis believe we do really well, is the source of the information and the reliability and accuracy of that information. They speak about prevalence of bias in algorithms. I always give the example, if I, on my social media platforms, show an interest in something, whether it be motor car tires, then I get fed motor car tires all the time because there's that bias in the algorithm believing that I'm interested in only that. Ashleka, I'm going to ask if you can kind of wrap up for us this afternoon to speak to us a little bit about where LexisNexis is going with respect to AI and the reliability of source material within the LexisNexis databases.
Yeah, thanks, George. So definitely, while AI and the technology is out there to provide that information at fingertips, it all definitely starts with content being accurate, reliable, and with LexisNexis, we carry that with us, making sure that all of our content, not most, all of our content curated by expert academics, judges, professors that go through our content, and making sure that that is accurate in terms of research. So when you bring and infuse this technology on our platform, it also is able to join that legal information that you're looking for and giving the customer what is out there, being accurate. Without either, then we would definitely not have a strong, powerful platform in the way it works today. And definitely we'll be seeing more to come in the AI space with LexisNexis products on the horizon.
Super. Ashleka, thank you so much. So I think that's a nice way of ending today, and that is making sure that the technology you use, well, one is the technology in itself must be reliable, but the source of where information comes from is absolutely key. And that is, I believe, what we at LexisNexis really get right. I was told the other day that our database and our databases that we use is larger, but I think almost tenfold larger than Wikipedia in itself. So And that is accurate data sources that we use to disseminate into our legal content, of which Ashleka showed you all just a little slither. Ladies and gentlemen, we've reached the end. It's 5 o'clock on a Thursday afternoon. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much to our panelists. I want to end with a little marketing pitch, if I may, right at the end. I said that legal technology consists of a number of things. Research is one thing, and Ashleka spoke about research. Document automation and document generation is another thing that LexisNexis does, especially in the conveyancing world, very, very effectively, as well as secure communication, using secure chat and all sorts of encrypted technology to enable communication with your customers, with your clients in an accurate and secure way. So any of your legal tech requirements, please pick up the telephone, get in touch with us, and we can help you. Again, to our attendees, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. And to our panelists, also, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. On that note, I'm going to wish you a good Thursday evening and wish you goodbye. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.